All right, hello, and we are back. Welcome back to The Counselor, and I am your host, Sheldon Stovall. So, we're talking about child support. And why is this man smiling about child support? Well, my kids are way old enough now, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. All right, but today we have a couple of callers. One caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, welcome to the show. So we'll be
Thank you.
getting to you right in a moment. So just wanted to kind of just recap a little bit. We've been going over some new facts as of 2022 with people who are probably paying child support for years. And we just kind of been giving you some pointers and some updates on what you need to know and some of the things that we're too lazy to do as men and as women that are paying child support, like refiling and making sure that things are okay. All right, so before we get to the caller, I have two questions I need to quickly answer. One of them was, how much allowance should I give my child? So, how much you should give your child is up to you. Now, I'm going to read you what Levine recommends, who's a writer. So, how much are you allowed to give? Levine recommends 50 cents to a dollar for every year of age. So, on a weekly basis, for example, a 10-year-old will receive $5 to $10 per week. So, as your child grows, so should his responsibility for his own or her own discretionary spending. So this probably was written back in I'll say 1850 because sneakers are $225 right now for school, and that's just the sneakers. So we're gonna at your discretion because you are a single parent. So it's important that yes, you start teaching your child young to be responsible and start learning the value of money if they're missing a custodial parent. But more importantly, if you are going to be giving your child, track it for a couple weeks, see what they're doing, and then that way use it as a teaching moment. All right? You're going to hear that a lot from us counselors. We always say that this is a teaching moment. All right, so the other question is, how much jail time do I get for child support? All right, so if you do not pay your child support frequently, though you might receive a felony charge on your record, if this happens, you can spend time in jail. Now, how much jail time do you get for non payment of child support? Child support jail sentences will make you serve less than 6 months, but some convictions can be up to 2 years. So, as there was a famous child support song about child support in the 90s, pay your child support, pay your child support. And if you're not paying it, as we mentioned the other day, it is not going to get any better. All right, so caller, I saw the email. You mentioned that you watched the show, so we appreciate it, and you subscribed. Hint, hint.
Yes.
We wanted to see, kind of find out what you want to kind of tell us. I know that you said you have a story about it, so can you please share with us what you wanted to say?
Okay. First of all, I really enjoy your show,
Thank you.
and I feel that it's very informative and there's a lot of information that people out there need.
Thank you.
Um, but I was a little bit appalled at the first installment of the child support program because the money amounts that you threw out there seem to be ridiculous to
Okay.
me.
All right.
Even the minimum of 430.
Okay.
Now, I myself have two children, and I actually got to go to court with their father when I still had just the one. And what I told the judge was because he, works under the table and, does odd jobs and whatnot, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to get $50 a week.
Correct.
Right. So I did actually get the judgment on paper. And fast forward almost 10 years, I have received about $100 in
Oh
10
my.
years.
Oh my.
And just, I believe he's tried to go get the support order lower than $200. Now, that was for one child. And after that, he fathered another child with me.
Okay.
So and that was one thing that I can't even believe that women are receiving so much money. And then the other thing that was like personally offensive to me was that there actually exists women that make a business out of this.
Correct.
That's prostitution.
Oh.
Okay. Listen, first of all, the expenses involved in having a child, when it comes to like just going in the hospital having a child, is about $10,000.
It's true.
Right?
That is
and
true.
And you factor in a lifetime of clothing, food, support, medical costs, college education. If you think this is a way to get over, you're an idiot. It don't even make no sense for somebody to be cranking out babies like a puppy mill. It's like, what? And kicking the kid out when they turn 18?
Yes.
I mean, you have to be some kind of stone cold, heartless bee to put your kid out because the money dried up.
Say it. Yes.
It doesn't even add up.
It doesn't.
For somebody to think that this is a viable form of employment.
It's the truth.
And
what would you say to these women who are doing this, though? Because these people don't get addressed because they already have the advantage. According to some of my clients, some of the guys that we talk to in groups, what would you say to them? Because to them, they have an advantage right now.
Listen, I would tell these girls they need Jesus because what they're doing is ridiculous. First of all, you sitting up here having unprotected sex
Correct.
with these dudes.
Yes.
And there's no standing commitment, obviously, because they just trying to catch a victim.
Yep.
So they purposely haven't. You can catch something you can't get rid of that ain't a kid.
That's right.
It just, come on, go to college, get a job.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I mean, I started off shady. I'm not even gonna lie to you. When I first got involved with my kid's father, I was a hustler. Okay. And I felt that in my ego, because I had a stream of income that was seemingly limitless at the time, that, you know what I'm saying, I could have a kid and take care of a kid, and, you know, it's like, you know, whatever. Later on, as I came to Christ, and obviously that sort of income was no longer an option for me, I got to feel the repercussions of my silly choices.
Okay.
And I had to really go to God in prayer and say, I'm sorry that I didn't do it your way. Okay. Because this is not cool, you know? And there's some other stuff, but I was on public assistance as well. And there's actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's actually some loopholes.
Okay.
Like the worst type of men.
Ooh.
Because if you're involved with DTA, they pretty much is standard that you're supposed to get child support from the father. But if this man is domestically violent, or if this man has hit you, you know, verbally abused you, maybe even sexually assaulted you or something like that, there's actually a paper that you can sign to exempt from going after them for child support.
Wow. Because it could be dangerous for you, is what you're saying.
Because supposedly it's dangerous for you.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The child still has needs, no matter what quality of man they came from. So just the fact that there's a loophole for people that don't even deserve it.
Correct.
It's just, it's offensive to me.
It really is. So yes, and I want to interrupt you because I want to hear more. Now let's talk about the $50 a week.
Okay.
So when I mentioned the $450 minimum, I mean that's just, you know, with a large scale. Like there's a huge ratio. You know, I know people personally who are paying way more than that, like thousands a week, you know, for their children from former relationships. So, you know, when I hear someone saying that they're barely getting $50 a week, how does that help you?
It doesn't. I only got $50 twice in 10 years.
Wow.
Because apparently he worked at some kind of a day labor that involved his social security number, so they garnished what they could.
Of course.
And maybe they took more, but I never saw it.
Did you? Well, you also mentioned that you had public assistance, and so regardless of sometimes how much he's paying, you're just going to get that amount that's stipulated to you.
Because they require that anything that they pay out to the mother is paid back by the father.
Correct.
So the government doesn't lose.
Correct. At all. They're going to get it one way or the other.
Exactly.
Correct. So what has that done for you, though? Like, did that, if you're talking to a young lady who's kind of going through the same thing, $50 a week, I mean, come on, that's nothing. Minus their allowance that you give them according to Levine. $50 a week, you know, what would that do for you? And
a pair of shoes, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe like not them $225 sneakers. Definitely not. But you know what? God's always blessed my kids so that stuff comes from north, south, east, and west.
Nice.
When my son was not even born yet, this lady presented me with like 30 pairs of baby shoes, like Nikes and all kinds of stuff. And that was amazing.
Nice.
But that doesn't happen to everybody.
Correct.
You know? Correct. So I would tell these young women out here, listen, you got to be more discerning in your choices and stuff. Like when I was hearing about these women, you know, making business out of this and stuff, I'm like, well, golly gee, I did this the wrong way. I'm thinking, you got to fall in love with somebody. And in the course of expressing that love, even if it's with the wrong person, babies come about. And these ladies are going out and planning to do it.
You went the old direction.
Bananas.
You went the old way. This is 2022 now.
Right.
You know, that doesn't go on anymore.
It's crazy. It's crazy because, no, that's not God's order, first of all.
Amen.
And even if you ain't thinking about God, that's just not smart.
It's not. Ultimately.
It's not, because then you stuck with a responsibility, you know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunately mostly minorities.
Okay.
You know, Hispanic people of color.
Yes.
That end up in these fatherless households. It's a perpetual cycle, and the sons don't know how to be a man because nobody taught them.
Correct.
You can't listen. I have issue with people that say I was the mother and the father. No, sister girl, you can be the best mom in the whole wide world, but you can't be the father.
Ooh.
You can't even teach your son how to pee standing up. So for you to say you're the mother and the father, no, you can't be, no matter how hard you try.
Correct.
But you know what? If you look in the right places, God will put good examples of upstanding men in your children's path so that they know what kind of man they want to be.
That's right.
You know?
I agree.
There's when I was asked by a therapy place what kind of counselor I wanted for my sons, I said, oh, black man.
Ooh, okay.
I said, because nobody's going to be able to give them that experience but another black man. My sons can't identify with a Caucasian man. Okay. So I need somebody that's going to give them the realness of being a black man in America.
Uh-oh. So then when you seen the black man as a counselor on TV, is that the first thought that popped in your head?
And it was unfortunate that I had, you know, I mean, that's why I think it's important what you're doing, you know, out here reaching people.
Thank you. Yes.
Because what the first thing this agency told me was, we don't have any.
That's right.
We don't have any black men counselors.
You're absolutely right.
Where are the black men counselors?
So I'm going to say this to you. When I was in college, starting in my undergrad, I was the only African American man in my classes, all of them.
Wow.
One other brother came in probably like the second semester I was there. And I was, oh, great. You know, somebody else is in here. He's like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm dropping this. And guess what his reason why was? His reason behind it. It was too many papers to write. So, yeah. And so it was sad because he left. But yes, so from the moment I walked into undergrad, which I got my bachelor's, and then I went to graduate studies, there was no other black men in my classes. Yes, except for my last year. Yes. It is. It's really difficult. And I would encourage more black men, ethnic men, Hispanic men, Asian men. You know, culturally, you're needed. You're absolutely right, caller. Culturally, we're needed. It's very hard for a child of color to listen to someone, you know, even though he might be a man, but, you know, not recognizing, you know, or being familiar with that person. That could be difficult to listen to. So, because the child may not know if you understand them. But for the record, we do take what we call culture diversity courses. So we do, all of us kind of get a good understanding of cultures in general. Nice. So thank you for that. So another thing, quickly, you brought up about being a business prostitution. You know, so that didn't really come across my mind, so I had to kind of write that down. Do you think it is prostitution? And if it is, why is the courts, is our court systems so overwhelmed and overloaded that they're not taking the time to consider this?
I think there's not really per se something you can do other than, I mean, what could you do? Forcibly sterilize somebody? It's such an intimate, personal thing.
Correct.
To have a child.
Correct.
And how can you go forth in there and try to mandate or try to mitigate these women that are making these erroneous choices?
Correct.
It's a very tricky place.
It really is.
I heard of once upon a time, I heard of a program that was offering women that were hooked on crack cocaine a dollar amount to have themselves voluntarily operated on to not have any more crack babies.
Wow.
And a lot of women actually did do it because they wanted to get more drugs, and $400 or $500 sounded like a mint.
That's money right there.
You know.
And as a former hustler, you would know that.
When these women are thinking about, they got dollar signs and stars in their eyes, and they thinking about 18 years worth of income. I mean, their mental health needs to be addressed.
Correct.
Because something's got to be wrong with you mentally when your aspiration is to sit here and be a perpetual baby mama. Correct. That's sick.
It really is.
Your aspiration should be to be a woman with a career.
Amen. You're right.
Life,
You're right.
You know, and a person making social change in your community for the better. Not to just crank out a bunch of kids. And then if it's all about the money, these children are not receiving the emotional nourishment that they need.
Correct.
Because they're basically a pawn in some sick game in order to them to profit from.
Amen.
So
you're right.
Profit bring off of somebody's life.
Correct. And so I'm going to ask you, I need to take a quick break in a moment. But I would like you to stay with me for another segment because, so you're hitting on something. This is why this show is here. This is why I am being present at the moment. Because these things need to be addressed. It's been going on far too long. Okay? It's a cycle that's continuing over and over and over again. And as I mentioned earlier in my segment, the older are not teaching the young. You know, they suffered, and so they're going to allow us to suffer the same fate. So we're going to be right back. We're going to stay with the call if you don't mind staying with me. I want you guys to, as the caller did today, reach out. This is a really super subject. We're going to be a few weeks on this. We're going to actually expand on dealing with child support. The title in the beginning was Men Targeted, but as I'm speaking with the callers and listening to my audience and with questions, it seems like there's quite a few mothers and single moms who need some help too, or need some advice, or need encouragement. So if I can, please give us a call. The number is listed below on the screen. It's scrolling through. You can give us a call. You can email me at promo@thecounselor.net. I'm sorry, promo@thecounselor.live. Or you can slide up in my DMs. We'll be back. All right. And welcome back to The Counselor. And I am your host, Sheldon Stovall. And again, we're still with the caller. I asked her to stay for another segment because I think that what her message is very important. And it's more important that you guys take some time, pick up the phone, give us a call, even if you don't want to tell your story. You can encourage someone else by giving us some advice or giving us some information because this is a real thing. These things are going on every day. So, caller, what I wanted to mention now, you said that you had your first child. What was your age bracket?
I was. Oh, I'm trying to think right now.
Okay.
Late 20s.
Okay. So you started late 20s.
Yeah.
So were you planning to have a family with this person, or what was your thought about it? Like, where were you going? Like, when you got pregnant, or?
I was very much in love with this man.
Okay.
So much that I felt like he hung the moon. Like I was young, and he's actually about 20 years older than me.
Okay.
So maybe that was part of the dynamic. I figured that because he was older, that he would have good sense.
Okay.
I was wrong on that assumption, but I want to go back a little bit and say I do have an older child before the two younger children.
Okay.
But that was from a different relationship, and that relationship was over.
How old were you with the older child?
I was 19.
Okay.
And then after that, it was a gap of about 9 years before I had the next child.
Okay.
So I desperately wanted to have a son.
Mm-hmm.
I already had a daughter, and I figured, okay, we're going to complete the pair, one of each, and then I'm done.
Now, was that a unified a decision, or was that just something in your head that you wanted to do?
We discussed this.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's just that because this particular person was a malignant narcissist.
Ooh.
So he told me everything that I wanted to hear.
Okay.
He told me he loved me. He told me I was beautiful. He told me all those wonderful things that women want to hear that just, eats up their mind or whatever, their good sense. And he told me that he wasn't seeing anyone else. I was the only one. So it came to a point where I said, we were already very sexually active, and I said, I want to have a son, and you're going to be the one to give him to me.
Okay.
I want him to have your eyes, your features, your this, your that, your strength, because he's a military man, so he had a particular kind of DNA that I was interested in, a warrior.
Okay.
The Counselor.